Hello, how you guys doing? Hope you're having a good day out there. My name's James. I wanted to show you something about a legal thing and get various content creators' view along with my view on a recent video called, and it was something. It was two different sides of the story. Some believe that the segregation of 1995. Um, some people believe that segregation don't exist. That it won't bring back the 1965. But some people claim it's something dealing with the transgender movement and keeping young boys out of the bathroom. But it's much deeper than that. And I'm going to show you various videos from different people's opinion on this topic. Let's start with Miss Boulay.
You see, there's this wild real estate trick where you...
Hello, this is Lady Boulay, and thank you for clicking on the video. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. And yes, we are commanded to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. And I came back to do this video because there's still a lot of talk about segregation, and Trump is bringing back segregation. And people are concerned. It would be concerning, but I'm going to say unequivocally, because I think I'm right. Segregation is not coming back to the United States. America cannot afford to segregate. In the 1960s and all the way up to the 1960s, this country was overwhelmingly white. I just heard this morning. In the 1960s, this country was 92% white. Today, it's 60% or under white. We already aren't getting the work done in America that we need done. That's why they're letting all these illegals in here. America cannot afford to go back to segregation. Now, another concern that black people are having is that they're doing things to try to trigger black people because they want to get black people out there in the streets so they can institute martial law. Well, that might be true too, but one thing about it, modern day black Americans don't know how to protest the way they did back in the day. I remember from my childhood when black people would go into what they call mass meetings. Those mass meetings were for people who were going to participate in the protest to get training, because the protest was what? Non-violent resistance. So they had to have training. You had to commit to not fighting back. Those people didn't fight back even when they sicked the dogs on them, even when they turned the hose on them, even when the police came after them. The men were large in numbers, but they didn't fight back. They didn't fight back because they had committed to not fighting back. And another thing was, you didn't just show up at a protest that Dr. King and SCLC was leading. You didn't just show up and join the protest. They had to know who was going to be in that crowd. You didn't just turn up, because what's happening now is that they're having a big protest or a big march or something, and these anarchists, people that are coming in from these right-wing groups and other organizations to create chaos, because they were talking about up in, I believe that was Ferguson or in Minnesota, where they had somebody where this whole pile of bricks automatically showed up, and those bricks were for the anarchists to throw into those shop windows and set fires and make it seem like that's what the black people were doing. And that is what they want now, because everybody is showing up, and people who are not even supposed to be in the march are showing up, pretending that they're a part of the protest when they're actually enemies of the protesters, sent to disrupt and undermine the protest. So that's another thing, and that's another reason why black people don't need to go out in the streets, because you're letting anybody join. And wouldn't it be special if black people went into the streets and these agents come in and create a whole riot, and then they come in and declare martial law and blame it on the black people? So everybody is under martial law, but they get to blame it on the black people. See, that's how that would work. Same old, same old. Another thing is that America is too diverse now to try to turn back the hands of time. Many black Americans believe they brought all of these immigrants in to undermine black Americans. What they have done now is work themselves into a corner, and I'm talking about America, and they don't really know what to do. They don't know how to get out. So it seems like they're trying to resort back to segregation. Well, I don't doubt that they would go back to segregation if they thought it would work, but it's not going to work. It's just not going to work in this day and age because America is still about as segregated as it's going to be. It's still not really integrated. We're still not a fully integrated society, but it's about as segregated as it's going to be. Now I'm going to change the subject for a minute. I want to talk about this executive order that Donald Trump supposedly has repealed, this government contracts thing. See, it is also the case that when this bureaucratic type government wants to do something and they don't want the American people to know what they're doing or what they're talking about, they'll put one thing out there for you to bite on so you won't pay attention to what they're doing behind the scenes. Now let me just break it down. Government contracts are big business in the United States. Billions of dollars are paid out in government contracts. Now that's what this is all about, in my opinion. All that business about segregated restaurants and segregated restrooms and all of that, that's just a smoke screen. Now,
hey, you, whatever you're doing right now.
Okay, let me.
The Trump administration is trying to bring back Jim Crow and segregation, and in today's video, we're going to discuss why. So let's go. My name is Ambassador Tim Ford Jr. of the African Union AUCS, and I've been living over in East Africa, Tanzania for almost 5 years now, and I help my people invest, rebuild, and return over to the continent of Africa. But today, we're going to talk about Donald Trump and his administration and the crazy executive order that they just put in place. During Donald Trump's first few days in office, he directed agencies to rid themselves of harmful and wasteful diversity policies and gender ideology extremism. The Trump administration has removed an explicit ban on segregated facilities like waiting rooms, restaurants, and drinking fountains for federal contractors. And y'all remember them pictures that we saw when we were growing up and the sign said white only? Or they look like they're trying to go back to that time and put us in that era. You know, they always talked about making America great again. And we always said, like, when was America actually great for y'all? When did y'all think that we were good? When did y'all think it was actually great? And that is the time when they thought it was great. So he's actively putting things in place and moving towards what he said he would do before he got into office. What is it? Sounds like some up there crawling around. It was a bird. It was a bird walking around. As I was trying to get into my video, this man gonna start climbing on the roof like that. You can't be doing that, birdie. Alright, let's go. Now, since taking office, the administration has taken several steps aimed at dismantling diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, which is DEI. Dismantling diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in the federal government and the private sector. In a previous executive order that Trump signed back in January, he revoked executive policies dating all the way back to the Civil Rights Act, and this act helped us get equal employment opportunities, environmental actions designed to protect communities of color, and workforce balancing efforts by federal contractors based on race, gender, and religion. The Civil Rights Act of 1965 aimed to end discriminatory practices in hiring employment on the part of the U.S. government contractors. And in one section of this order, he even encouraged the private sector to end all illegal DEI. So he called diversity, equity, and inclusion illegal, bro. He said it's illegal for us to be having to be forced to work with them, forced to have them in our environment, forced to not have segregation in place. He's calling it illegal to diversify and be included with each other. What does that say to us? What does that tell you? Why are we surprised? Why are we acting like, oh, honestly though, our people aren't surprised. We knew. We saw the writing on the wall. It's a lot of those Europeans who believed in that country, who believed in, that things could change, things could get better, and decided to side with Trump and didn't really believe that he would do what he said he would do. Honestly, we felt like discrimination never ended from our perspective, definitely where I'm from, Memphis, Tennessee, the southern side of the United States of America, discrimination never ended. They just rebranded it and called it something different. But the fact that the federal government is backing what he's talking about now, things are about to get shaky. And since we're here talking about it, let me give you guys a brief understanding of what DEI really is. DEI was created because marginalized communities have not always had equal opportunities for jobs or felt a sense of belonging in majority white corporate settings. So our people put DEI in place a few years ago to make sure that these people gave us respect, that they let us in the room, that they let us do what we needed to do in order to get where we needed to get in that country. Throughout the past, before Martin Luther King and our people decided to march and ask for integration and ask to be a part of what they were building over in America, before that, they would actually show us how they felt and tell us, stay out of their environment, stay out of their restaurant, don't drink from this water fountain, we don't want to be around y'all. Even though they brought some of our people over there on ships. Some of our people are already over there too, let's just keep it real, but they brought some of our people over there on ships and forced them to work in their fields, forced them to get free labor. And then when it was time to be free and go into the society and go into some of the buildings that we built and enjoy some of the amenities that we worked hard to build, they would literally tell them, no, get out of here. What are you doing, black guy? What are you doing? And some of these white men were so insecure to the point that they felt like our brothers were going to try and take their women from them, when we all know there's nothing is better than black. The blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. We know how that go. But yeah, they were so afraid of being in the same environment because there was some guilt that they felt. And of course, they were also nervous about how we would retaliate. They did not want to be subjugated to the wrath that we felt of being in that position throughout those hundreds of years. So of course, they wanted their own space. They didn't want us around because that guilt, it eats a lot of them up. Now, Dorelli Rodriguez, the acting co-chief counsel for the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights,
Okay, that was just to give you an look of what he was talking about. Now I'm about to take you into something that people say, well, we're not, one person said we're not segregated, another person, you're not segregated. Watch this.
Have you ever heard of a sundown town?
They said, dude, you might want to get up out of here as soon as possible. Where it's sundown, you want to leave here now.
Sundown towns are communities that systemically excluded African Americans and other minority groups, often through intimidation, restrictive housing policies, and even violence. While many of these towns no longer explicitly enforce racial exclusion, as in there isn't a written law saying blacks get out, but some still exhibit stark racial disparities that reflect their history and current ideologies. If you were to guess where these so-called sundown towns are located, many people will conjure up a list of towns in Mississippi or Alabama. But while there are certainly sundown towns in the South, I'm talking about sundown towns that are more shockingly in the North. This non-South part of the U.S. likes to think they are a bastion of inclusion, but many states would be shocked, or maybe not shocked, to find out that they contain some problematic towns. Let's start out with a city that has less than 1.5% of its population as African Americans, Kennewick, Washington. A Kennewick resident recently shared, "I've had elderly customers ranting about wanting to return to the good old days when businesses were all closed on Sunday and people who shouldn't be here knew to be gone by sunset." Yes, this is literally the attitude of today by actual residents in Washington. Kennewick, located in southeastern Washington, was a well-documented sundown town in the mid-20th century. During this period, black individuals were prohibited from remaining in the town after sunset. When the sun goes down, you can't be around. Can you even imagine someone telling you this? This exclusion was not merely a product of social intimidation, but was often enforced by local authorities who engaged in racial profiling and harassment. Reports from the time suggest that law enforcement would escort black individuals to the city limits, reinforcing the town's status as a hostile environment. The exclusion of African Americans from Kennewick continued through housing discrimination, with restrictive covenants preventing non-whites from purchasing or renting property. In the 1960s, the town was referred to as the Birmingham of Washington due to the treatment of black citizens, with less than 10 black residents living there in 1963. According to the 2020 census, the city demographics include only 1.5% of the entire population. The lingering racial imbalance is a testament to its exclusionary history, but the attitudes of today help reinforce it. A former resident shared, "I lived in Anna, Illinois for a brief period of time. It's still racist AF and gross. I left ASAP and will never go back." Anna, Illinois is a town that has a particularly infamous reputation as a sundown town. It is well known throughout the town and area that Anna has a chilling acronym. This town knowingly stands for Ain't No N-Word Allowed. A traveler through the town recently shared, "My coworker and I were traveling through Anna. While getting gas, my coworker was told Anna is an acronym for Ain't No N-Words Allowed. But he didn't say N-words. He went full hard R. My coworker is black and I am not. The dude then sat in his truck and waited until we left. It hasn't changed." If you didn't know and were just traveling through, I can't even imagine the shock of hearing that. But even more, the resident sharing that openly and condescendingly, and then waiting until the black person he shared it with left the town. Awful. This is present day, people.
You have something in your home right now that can make you thousands of dollars and literally change your financial.
Black person he shared it with left the town. Awful. This is present day, people. Anna's nickname stems back from the violent removal of black residents in the early 20th century. African Americans were driven out of Anna and neighboring Jonesboro in the 1900s, and the town even became known as an unwelcome place for black travelers. Even as the civil rights movement made progress in other parts of the country, Anna remained nearly all white. Today, the town has an overwhelmingly white population, with African Americans making up less than 1%. The continued racial disparity suggests that the legacy of its exclusionary past has not been fully dismantled, and black residents are still underrepresented in the community. Another Illinois resident shared, "Since 2016, it seems to have gotten worse, if that's possible." Edina, Minnesota is a very white suburb of Minneapolis. In speaking with a resident of Edina, she shared that Edina has been a poster child for rich white suburbs for a long time, and in many ways, it still 100% is. Another Edina resident posted publicly, "Edina is famous for blocking the development of affordable housing. They say, oh, Richfield is a great place for the poor and brown people." This shows how much Edina would like to say they've changed, but there is still significant change needed. Edina was a sundown town that used racial restrictive housing covenants to prevent African Americans from living in the town. One of the most notable examples of this discrimination was in the Country Club District, a planned community that explicitly prohibited non-white residents through legal contracts and actions. Even after racial covenants ended officially in 1948, the town still wrestled with racist attitudes, with real estate agents steering black families away from the area. The city remained largely homogeneous throughout the 20th century. Despite Minneapolis being a diverse metropolitan area, Edina's racial makeup has been slow to change. As of the 2020 census, non-Hispanic white residents make up approximately 77% of the population, while African Americans account for only about 4%. The stark racial disparity suggests that barriers, whether economic, social, or residual bias from its past, continue to shape Edina's demographics. While discussing racist towns in Connecticut, a person nominated Darien and a resident shared, "Darien used to be a sundown town. Kinda still is." Darien, Connecticut is a town that puts the sundown on more than just African Americans. The wealthy suburb of New York City was historically known for its exclusionary policies targeting both African Americans and even Jewish families. Real estate agents in Darien practiced racial steering, ensuring that homes were sold only to white buyers. Social intimidation reinforced these practices, and black individuals were largely absent from the town throughout much of the 20th century. Despite Connecticut's overall racial diversity, Darien remains overwhelmingly white. As of the 2020 census, non-Hispanic whites make up about 88% of the population, while African Americans constitutes less than 1%. The town's exclusivity, combined with high property values and social barriers, continues to reflect its history as a sundown town. A former resident of Levittown, Pennsylvania shared, "I grew up in Levittown. Best thing I ever did for myself was leave. Casual racism." And then goes on to list several other issues with the town. Another former resident said, "Levittown, more like leaving town. I will never be back." Levittown is one of the most famous planned communities of the 1950s, built as a suburban enclave for white middle-class families. When the first black family moved into Levittown in 1957, they were met with widespread hostility, protest, and even violence from white residents. Housing policies originally barred black residents from purchasing homes, reinforcing racial segregation. Although those explicit policies were eventually overturned, the demographic impact remains. As of the 2020 census, non-Hispanic whites makes up about 88% of the population, while African Americans constitute only about 3%. Levittown's history as a sundown town continues to shape its racial makeup today. Clutch your pearls, liberal California, because you are not exempt from this list. Hawthorne, California is a city in the Los Angeles metropolitan area that was a notorious sundown town during the mid-20th century. It was once described as the most beautiful suburban town and a city of good neighbors, which is shocking considering the implications of those titles. Racial covenants and law enforcement practices ensured that African Americans and other minority groups were unwelcome. Redlining further reinforced segregation, preventing black families from purchasing homes. Although Hawthorne has become more diverse over time, the legacy of its sundown policies is still felt in socioeconomic disparities. The city's black population remains lower than that of other nearby communities, reflecting the lasting effects of decades of exclusion. You can't get much further north than Maine. In the early 20th century, Milo, Maine was a focal point of Ku Klux Klan activity, most notably by playing host to the KKK's first daylight parade in the United States in 1923. Not only was it the first time the KKK did a parade in the daytime, Milo was the first KKK parade in the Northeast. In recent years, Maine has undertaken various initiatives to combat racism and promote inclusivity. Statewide efforts include the Maine Human Rights Act, which prohibits discrimination based on race, color, national origin, and other factors in areas such as employment, housing, and education.
It is worth every penny and then some.
I wish I had found you guys sooner, because I think I probably could be even further along than I am now. This is
Oh boy, I can't stand when they keep showing you doggone commercials. I want to show you something right quick. So they say America's changed, right? They say America's changed. Oh no, that stuff is of the past. No, we're not divided. We're not going to segregation. Oh no, that's just something. That's just over there. That was just something a long time ago. People not really doing that today, are they? Oh yeah. The heck they ain't. Let me show you this quick story right quick. And you're gonna be surprised at this story. Shout out to, I usually listen to his channel, Runaway Slave. He talks about these young women, and you're gonna be shocked what these white parents had to do.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to my channel, Runaway Slave. First, I'd like to give a big up to all my subscribers and supporters who like, share, subscribe, purchase the masterpiece, The N-Word is No Secret in the Service, any merch, anything that you've ever done to support the channel. I appreciate you all. Okay, let's cook. Okay people, big shout out to the loyal sub for inspiring this video right here. You know who you are. And in this video, we're going to Idaho with it. Now, this story or this situation out of Idaho is just a microcosm of American social issues and race relations but it's in Idaho. Okay, so something was going on in a place called West Ada School District. Okay, a school called Seven Oaks Elementary or something like that. Now they have something at the school called like Pride Week or Everyone is Welcome Week or Happy Week or whatever. One of those type things that people do. To say that pretty much is saying that everyone is welcome here regardless of color, nationality, this and that. So they have a week to push that right there. And when they're doing that at the school, the white parents, and I have to say many people in the school were upset with this everyone is welcome type thing and showing these flags. People got mad because they were showing different skin tones on a flag with hands on it. The white people got upset.
You're in sixth grade, teacher Sarah Inama's classroom. It's been vast and it's been rather fast, as we just talked about. For the past week, several parents and teachers from around the West Ada School District sent us emails and text messages telling us, this isn't an isolated incident. It's just the one where a teacher decided to push back and stand up and refuse to remove the poster. For example, this bulletin board was up in the hallway of the Seven Oaks Elementary in Eagle in anticipation of Kindness Week, which happens in February, which happened last month. You see it as various inspirational quotes like better together, be kind, and everyone is welcome here. Right there, yeah. It also has rainbows on it and skin tones, even flags from other countries, which one would assume represented kids from those countries who now go to school at Seven Oaks. One parent told us that display was taken down at the end of January after a now deleted Instagram account posted about it, asking parents to show up to the school on a Monday to protest that bulletin board. However, before that could happen, this parent told us over the weekend, the prior weekend, the school had the display removed. Then there's this flag display at Desert Sage Elementary. Desert Sage has a large refugee population, and for years, flags of the countries from where their students came from adorn the hallways of the school, from Rwanda to Afghanistan to Myanmar. Nearly 36 flags, and these flags have been up for years until they were told to take them down a few weeks ago. The teacher that reached out to us told us they were notified by the West Ada School District the flags on the wall violated the district policy, which was updated in 2023, but not enforced until the middle of February. And of course, there's also a bill sitting on the governor's desk that would make any other flag besides the U.S. flag, the state of Idaho flag, or the flag of the school illegal to display on school grounds. So there's been a district-wide push to remove all indicators of skin tones or colors of the rainbow or flags celebrating the diversity of the student body because of outside influences. The district stance: we don't need artwork or pictures or posters or flags to show value to our students. And maybe that's true. But we've also gotten a lot of emails and messages that say otherwise. They say there are bigger issues within West Ada, and removing posters or displays of diversity could be seen as reinforcing the message not everyone believes everyone is welcome here. Today, we met a family who adopted a daughter from Uganda 10 years ago. This is Abby and her new sister, Ansley. It's on the right. This week, Abby arrived. This is the week they took this picture the week Abby arrived in Idaho. They're the same age, so it's no surprise they've become very close over the years. Abby told us she never thought of herself as quote-unquote black until she got to middle school because, well, she was no longer the only one. Abby and Ansley were 8th graders, I should say, at Victory Middle School up until a couple of weeks ago when they became homeschool kids because of how Abby was being treated at school.
Go Guardian Beacon alerts responders when a student is at risk of self-harm.
A couple of weeks ago when they became homeschool kids because of how Abby was being treated at school.
Okay, so you get it. The white people got mad. They said, no, we don't need these colors. We don't need this diversity stuff. We don't need these different skin tones. No, everybody is not welcome here. Just basic, typical American white people, okay? Standing on white American principles, these people will be considered patriots. They don't want the symbolic nothingness to camouflage their hate, their hatred, and their racism. Okay. Now on to this family right here, Abby. These two little white girls, well, the little white girl and the black girl are sisters. Okay, she's in the 8th grade now. This story right there, to start off, okay, so I can get this point off right here. That story doesn't really warm my belly too much. You know, the part about them adopting her and everything. Because knowing what I know about white supremacists and the case study and the history, you know what I'm saying? I want to know who Abby's mother and father are. What organization did she come through to these white people, this white family? Did they steal her? You know, what did they tell her as far as where her parents are? I mean, for all I know, Abby's mother and father may be looking for her right now on the continent of Africa somewhere. Why do I say this? Because this is what white people do. This is what these organizations have done, and this is what they do. They steal children sometimes. Not always the case, but a lot of times it is. You know, how was this family here able to get Abby? Was Abby's family part of some kind of pharmaceutical experiment that they didn't know about, and the family like died off from whatever they were doing, and now Abby's an orphan, she doesn't have parents? I don't know. Did these white folks go poison the dirt that they grow in the crops over there in this community, in this part of Africa, in the continent of Africa, to see how people may respond to some compound that they're making for household cleaning products or something? I don't know, man. I mean, this is stuff I think about now. So these little stories, when I see that somebody white, this man right here, he's a pastor or a reverend or something, you know, they belong to those organizations that go over there and do things. The wife is a teacher. Due to, you know, white supremacy is really messed up. And all the hateful things that these white organizations have done, I'm sorry, I gotta look at a story like this now. It don't hit me the same way. You know what I'm saying? Because it makes me think like, okay, I want to know more now. What's going on? I hate to be, you know, Mr. Krabs, but this is what white supremacy has done to my brain. I have to think differently, okay? I need more proof on Abby, but anyway, let's keep it going.
I kind of started figuring out that like people were being mean to Abby more in 7th grade, because that's when like it all kind of like blew up, I guess. I remember somebody telling me, do you get the N-word pass from Abby? And the N-word pass is basically something where if you know somebody, like somebody who's black, like the person who's black gives you the N-word pass, so you can just say it to whoever you want, like whenever you want. Yeah, and I was like, well, that's ridiculous, because why would I ever want to say that? Like, that hurts people. So that's like kind of when I figured out, like, oh wow, like racism, like, is happening. The hard thing was, like, a lot of it was happening in like the hallways, I feel like, because that was when I was more with her, so I knew more. And I think a lot of people did it in the hallways because there weren't many teachers around to hear it.
So you heard it too then?
Yeah, I have heard people say racist things to Abby.
Were you being singled out because of the color of your skin? Were you called names, those kind of things?
Yeah, like when I'd like walk in the hallways or like wherever I was, like I would constantly be hearing like the N-word either to me or like to someone else, and the jokes that would go around, like, oh, go pick cotton, or like in my class, like they'd say it to me, like, oh, get back to work, or like, no one wants you here, like,
really?
Yeah, like to me. And that's when I knew, like, well, yeah, they're talking about me, or to me.
How'd that make you feel?
Definitely singled out, because not very many people, like, or like at all ever, like, had my back. There was an instance where, like, the N-word was said, like, a lot of times, and then in class, I, like, decided, like, well, that really hurt my feelings, so I face-to-face told the person, and she just said, well, I say it, and shrugged off and started laughing, and it hurt my feelings because there was another person there, and I thought she was gonna like stand up for me or something, but like she didn't say anything. When that happened, I for sure thought those kids were gonna say something, cause like I hung out with them. But when they didn't, it kind of seemed like they didn't really like care or like have my back, and like it just really hurt, because everybody wants to like have people who have their back and will like stand up for them and just show that like we care about you. But when like no one did, I just felt like alone again. So it didn't feel like I had any room to like escape really, like, and feel like this is where I'm supposed to be.
Okay, people, so the children in this video here, we have Abby, who's the black child who's adopted, and we have Abby's sister. Now, you can tell, or I can tell, I don't know how you feel, that Abby's sister, the white child, she's a good little person, you know. Her thing is, I don't want to hurt anybody, don't be mean, racism is wrong. She's got a good head on her shoulders. She was born to be a good person. Now, she's already seen how white people act in her young age. Obviously, her parents in the house, they were probably not overt racist. You know, they come from one of those houses where the people, you know, their dads in the church and stuff like that. They probably talk about being nice to people and stuff like that. And now this young white American child here understands the hatred from the white community, from her people firsthand. Mm-hmm. She learned this from having a black sister.
Mm-hmm.
Now what she learned is how white Americans in general, how they act and how they feel.
Okay? When black people not
even
around.
if they don't say it. So this white child is learning how the white community, how white Americans in general act because she has a black sister.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, she's still got a good head, and as she gets older, she's going to have to battle and fight. She's going to have to battle and fight not to become a hardcore racist and white supremacist, because America rewards racism.
Mm-hmm.
And racism and white supremacy is at the bottom line of every factor, everything you could think of in America.
Mm-hmm.
So she's got her work cut out for her as a white person. In order to try to be a good person, she has to work hard. She's going to have to work hard, okay? So this is a good learning experience for her.
I feel like this is where she was supposed to be. She didn't feel welcome at school. Her parents made it clear the school administration listened to their concerns, and steps were being made to address the issues. But it was an incident that happened on the bus the year before that ultimately led to the decision to take their daughters out of school. One day there was a kid who was harassing another kid who was black, trying to get him to move to the back of the bus. And this kid, Abby told us, doing the harassing, well, he had an app on his phone which made a whipping sound. And so he went about pretending to whip this black student while using the sound effect on his phone. And then he did the same thing to Abby. And we were told disciplinary actions were taken, but that did not stop the harassment Abby received from that boy's friends, accusing her of overreacting and getting him in trouble for nothing. And that harassment, well, that continued throughout this year until it became too much. That's when Abby's parents, one a teacher within the Westgate School District, the other a pastor at an East Boise church, they took both their daughters out of school because they were tired of seeing Abby basically being punished for someone else's actions.
I felt very uncomfortable in ice rinks.
What if the lottery was on your phone? With real tickets, real winners.
I was in the Marine Corps. I know I've said that a few times. You're probably aware of it. If not, if you're new here, I served at the Marine Corps for a few years. I was an enlisted guy, not an officer. So I was in boot camp with a lot of black Marines who had trouble with razor bumps or shave bumps. I don't know what they call them. When you have curly hair and you shave, sometimes the hair goes up inside and you have an ingrown hair there. And some people are afflicted because of genetics to have it even worse. And so in boot camp, this isn't for black men who are watching this, because you know, this is for white people who don't know, or if you weren't in boot camp, but there's like a cream that they put on that's like Nair that kind of burns the hair off so you don't have to shave it, and so you have less of a problem with it. Well, right now, the Republican Party, the most organized and effective white supremacy organization on the planet, the Republican Party, Donald Trump, the whole DEI nonsense, they're so against diversity in our world that they are going to be kicking out Marines, black Marines, who suffer from this genetic condition and have a hard time shaving. I've been talking about they're deleting tens of thousands of images in databases celebrating the diversity in the military. Just pictures of black folks doing their jobs, of women doing their jobs, of gay and lesbian and transgender soldiers just doing their jobs. They're deleting any trace of it because they want to erase the contributions of individuals who aren't straight white men. That's the way it is. Because you know what I can tell you? You know what they're not deleting? pictures of straight white men, right? I didn't think that in the Trump administration I would be reading from military.com, which is the newspaper that deals with military issues. A lot of these people are veterans, but this is the newspaper that covers military issues, military news. Here we are, though. Here's the headline. Marines with skin condition affecting mostly black men could now be booted under new policy, meaning kicked out of the military. A new Marine Corps policy says troops with a genetic skin condition that can cause pain and scarring from shaving and mainly affects black men, can be separated if the health issue persists. The, quote, interim guidance issued Thursday gives military healthcare providers 90 days to reevaluate Marines diagnosed with pseudofolliculitis barbae. I think it's how you say that. Pseudofolliculitis barbae, or PFB. Now, PFB, that's way easier. Or PFB. If they don't recover based on a 4-phase treatment program outlined in the message, have to remain on a shaving waiver for more than a year, and a commander deems it fit. The Corps can administratively separate them due to incompatibility with service, according to the message. The directive marks a reversal from a previous Marine Corps policy issued in 2022 that prohibited the service from administratively separating Marines solely based on the condition, which is caused when curled hairs grow back into the skin, resulting in inflammation. It also comes at the same time Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has ordered a military-wide review of standards specifically focused on issues such as shaving, waivers, and body fat. Quote, in cases where a medical condition prevents a Marine from meeting required standards for an extended period exceeding 1 year, administrative separation may be considered if it affects long-term service compatibility. Major Jacoby Getty, a spokesperson for the Corps Manpower and Reserve Affairs, said in an emailed statement Friday when asked why Marines are no longer exempt from separation due to PFB. Quote, he says, however, every effort will be made to support Marines through treatment and recovery before such decisions are considered. Getty emphasized that the new guidance is meant to imbue consistency across medical exemptions and that the service remains fully committed to supporting Marines with PFB. It's not being applied consistently when this is an affliction that I think they say like 60% of black guys have. Oh, it says black service members make up about 15 to 16% of the active duty force, they said, but 66% of shaving waivers holders are black. This is to target black Marines. This is to target black Americans. This is to target people who want to serve their nation. It's not white people that are largely going to be impacted by this, or even minorly impacted by this. It's black folks. That's why they're deleting the contributions of black heroes who got the Medal of Honor after being wounded. High-ranking individuals that they replaced the link on the website with DEI medals. Just because he was black and got a Medal of Honor, it was a DEI medal, even though he was wounded in combat multiple times. This is white supremacy. This is wanting America to be a white ethno-state. And the Marine Corps is going along with it. The military is going along with it. Because the man who leads the Department of Defense and works at the behest of our white supremacist president is he himself a white supremacist with white nationalist tattoos, Pete Hegseth. Who's there not for merit because he's not qualified for the position. He's there because he makes Donald Trump happy when he was a Fox News B-team host who happened to be in the military.
Those who are living in the house they paid off are making a huge mistake. You see, there's this wild real estate trick where...
So, I guess I have to ask this. So if I had to ask to America out there, has it changed? Have things changed? This is not the past. This is not just one, 2, or 3 little incidents. This is a thing that just keep going on and on and on. And when it says separation, that's the reason why I had to show you the town. There's sundown towns. There are sundown towns. And I know that some people, it's hard to believe it. And I bet you there are a disproportionate of white people, it's hard to believe it. It may be some black people and other people who come across this video that don't believe it. There's a video I saw that they're bringing in 70,000 white South Africans. Meanwhile, they're getting ready. The Haitians, the Venezuelans, Chinese, the Nicaraguans, the Mexicans, and they kind of reluctantly what they're going to stay on decision what they're going to do with the Ukrainians. Everything is about race. It's about race. This is what you can't get no more plainer than that. And you see how it's passed down from generation to generation. Children, where do children know how to do that? Go pick cotton. Let me whip you. Who's teaching them to do that? These are children. It's passed down. Who's teaching them to do? Who's teaching these kids to do that? Did you hear about the sundown towns? Who's? But yet people, you point this out. You know, it might not get too popular of a video because YouTube probably screws the algorithm, but it's true. And even the man said, even in your military, they bringing it back, but yet they trying to blame it on the sexual orientation. Has nothing to do with that. That's just one of the things. I would doubt it. And if you in an interracial couple, he might rescind that law. Let's get deep. I'm trying. Look what he's doing. That might be the next one. You might be. They might redo that one. It's pretty much. it's pretty much in our face. It's pretty much basically right there. And therefore, you know, black Americans, hang on. But if you ever get some type of wealth or get some kind of status, you might have to leave the country. You can't stay unless you want to be subjugated to that. And then Donald Trump talking about staying the next another 4 years. He wants to do. You know, he wants to pass the law that he wants to be president. I don't know. He's damn near 90. People don't believe this. People don't believe that. Oh, that stuff is of the past. I had to show you a video. The guy showing you this ain't just southern. This is throughout the United States and cities and towns. That they still have segregation. I don't think we're segregated. We've been segregated. And the video shows you. You pass through here, it can you get pulled over by a police officer or some corrupt organization. They might not see you again because you're covered. It just shows you, plain black and white. America hasn't changed. I always said this in the past, it transformed in different places. And people, it was just basically concentrate on these people's sexual orientation and basically understand, about keeping boys out the girls' bathroom. No. That was the pitch. The main thing, and before I leave this video, he mentioned about the black contractors. Now, if your woman, black woman, white woman, Latino man, black man, black woman, or it could be LGBTQ, and you got a good reputation of doing the job really well. You provide a better service, and if it's in construction, whether it's in whether it's in IT, whether it's in something, building trades or something like that, whether you in transportation, Donald Trump just stopped you. Look, you see what he did to the black farmers, right? Now it's hitting the white farmers. It was okay when the black farmers were suffering, but now the white farmers are suffering because of these tariffs. See how they come around, go around? All I gotta say, okay. But it's unveiling itself. We've been trying to tell you all along. America hasn't changed when it comes to that. It hasn't changed. It won't change until, I say this, until Jesus Christ steps his foot in the earth. No matter if you call yourself a Christian, it won't change. Take care, be blessed. See you on the next video.